Right, I'm going to show you how to make the Drowning Statue of Liberty intro, and it'll be a nice exercise in importing stuff from elsewhere. Now, the actual Statue of Liberty itself I didn't create, I didn't model it. It's a 3ds file that I simply downloaded from the net. You can find lots of them out there. This particular one is sort of medium. It's not the best, it's not the worst, but the best one would have made it a lot slower to render because the number of polygons in that thing were horrendous. So let's start by importing that. And let's find it in downloads, Statue of Liberty, and there it is, import 3ds, and there is our Statue of Liberty. All very good. Now, this Statue of Liberty is made up of several different pieces, and I don't think I need some of them, so I'm going to get rid of them. I don't need that bit, for example. I think I'll keep the podium. I didn't in the original, but I regretted it afterwards, so I think I'm going to keep that. And the next thing I want to do is I want to join all these bits, but not until I've given them some materials, because this base here is a kind of sandstone colour. So what I want to do is to give that a sandstone material, or a sandstone-ish material, and it's going to be a light sort of salmony colour, and drop the intensity a bit. Specular is going to be a bit yellowy, something like that, and the hardness is going to be down. So that's kind of a sandstone-y colour. It's not terrific, but on the other hand it's going to be under the water, so we're not going to see it as anything more than just a vague shape, really. And the rest of Liberty I think I need to join together, so I'm going to go view front, that looks about right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on I'm going to box it, actually, use a box selection, and that has selected all of those parts, like so. Make sure that I deselect the sun by shift and right clicking, and make sure that one of these is selected. I'm going to hit join. In fact, everything's going to get joined to the lamp. Haha. So it's interesting. Where's join gone? That's why it won't do it. Okay, we're going to have to hit shift, right click, and then join will appear, because I was trying to join it to the lamp, and you can't join things to the lamp, and that's the lamp. I was thinking the lamp up there, but never mind. Okay, so we've now got Liberty, and all the material for this is the same apart from that torch at the top there that's gilded. And so I am simply going to create all the material, and it's going to be, I'm going to call it bronze. And I'm going to do this one with a texture. Let's just drop the intensity down for that. Specular is still going to be a little bit on the green side. Hardness is going to be a little bit harder. I think I might have to change that in a minute. I don't know. Mirror, it's a metal, so it always wants to have a tiny amount of mirror on there, and it's going to be quite a bright green like that. And now we're going to textures, and what I did was I found this texture which was just verdigris. Basically it's the corrosion that you get on bronze and copper, so I used that, which is here, patina, which is another word for it, and you can see what that looks like. And I'm not going to unwrap it. I found that it works absolutely fine in a spherical projection on this statue. And the colour, mostly it's going to be the colour of that. And geometry, I'm going to take it a little bit down from 1. Somewhere around about 0.8 will do. I'm going to take the lamp because I'm going to do a test render to make sure I've got the materials right. So I need to change the lamp. It's going to be changed to a sun. I'm just going to pull it out of the way a bit. And here's our camera. Not very good, but it'll do for a trial render. And immediately you can see what I haven't done is I haven't set this to render smoothly. So smooth, and you can see how much better that looks, and that's fine. I think that's pretty good, except maybe I want these to be a bit goldy, these highlights. And maybe that'll look more like bronze. Yeah, that's quite good, I think. Okay, so that's the statue sorted out. We've still got to scale it, but never mind. If I view from the top, oh, I now want to join these two, of course, don't I? And I need to put the gold onto the torch. So I'm going to join those like so. Go into edit mode, and you can see how many polygons there are in this, which isn't all that many when you consider the complexity of the actual model. It's not too bad. And let's just pick a polygon in there, pick up vertex in there, and go into view selected. This is just a quick way of getting your view set up for a particular place. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn on this little beastie here, which lets me select everything that's behind something. I'm going to tart it around until we can do a box select and just get the frame. So there we go, box select. We've just got the flame, nothing else, and I'm going to gild it. So what am I going to do there? I'm going to add a new material. I'm going to call gold. And I'm going to give it kind of a goldy colour maybe. Or I might even use a gold texture. Haven't quite made my mind up on that yet. In fact, I think I will use a gold texture. Give it some mirror, quite a yellowy mirror. reflectivity up a little bit from where it was on the statue. And now if I hit assign, because I've got those selected, you can see it's changed. Now maybe I want it to cover a bit more of that torch, so I can go to the select menu down here and I can hit more and assign again. So there you go, you can see it's assigned that material. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a gold texture. And I can't remember for the life of me whether I did this the first time or not, so we'll see if there's a texture there. If there is, I'll use it. Look at that gold textured background I did, and that's the gold textured background. And once again, spherical. And that should do. And just to make sure, we will align the active camera to the view, render it and see what we get. Well, it kind of looks like yellow. Okay. It's because it's not reflective enough, I think. Or maybe it's too reflective actually. Well, you're only going to see it from a distance. What the hell? That'll be good enough, I think. So, let's get rid of that. And let's select where we want to be viewing this from. Oh, where's the damn camera gone? Oh, there it is. It's over there. It's in the wrong place. It's diametrically in the wrong place. That's good, isn't it? Let's go into object mode. Select the camera. Let's bring it over that way. Now we're kind of in the right place. So G for grab, and we'll drop it down. Remembering we're going to be scaling this statue down, otherwise our scene is going to be enormous. So I'm going to scale it down. And what I want is I want the height of it to be almost out of the picture, not quite. Because remembering the sea level when we start is going to be about here. Something like that. That's not quite how I had it the first time, but it will do for this demo. Right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add the sea in. So I'm going to add in a plane. I'm going to go over to the modifiers. I'm going to add an ocean modifier. There it is, and I'm going to make it quite big. Actually, I think I need to do this the other way around. I need to repeat it and make it smaller. You start to see the mess you can get into if you make the waves too choppy and the scale too big. Something like that. And of course I want the ocean to stretch as far into the distance as possible. I want it to be roughly centered in our camera view, so let's view there, something like that. However, it's coming obviously outside of our camera view at the moment. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to import something else, because I've done a lot of tutorials that involve water and I've got a little bit fed up with making water because it takes a long time to do it from scratch each time. So I'm just going to import, and you can have a look at my settings and just copy those, because I'm going to have to change what I'm importing anyway. So I'm going to import a material, and for those of you who didn't know how you could do that, this is how you do it. And it's append, and let me see where we are. Lake blend, material, water. And now I can go to the materials selection on our ocean. I can use that drop down box there, water. Right. Now I said I was going to change things. The first thing I'm going to change is the specular reflection, which wants to be a little bit towards the green. This here wants to be a bit of a deeper green, like so. Almost like the statue. Okay. And I'm going to turn the filtering up to about 0.4. You notice the index of refraction, all the rest of it. This is all about right. Fresnel's going to come down to maybe 2. Blend's okay. Mirror, I'm going to take the reflectivity down. I'm going to introduce some Fresnel, couple maybe. Turn the blend up a bit. Turn the gloss down a bit. Now, there's a limit factor here, which is how far the light goes in, and I'm going to turn that up to around the 5 mark. And I think that's about right. I think that's about how we had it. See what that looks like. What that looks like is it's not really transparent enough. So turn the alpha right down. The specular higher, because where it reflects. What I want to do is I want to start to see through that water, and for some reason it's not happening for me, which is quite strange. And this is what I meant about water being difficult. It always is, unless I was to go back and copy obviously exactly what I did before, and I'm resisting the temptation to do that because I want to show you, if you like, the invention process. So what happens if I turn the alpha right the way down to absolutely nothing? Oh, actually it might just be the fact that I've just suddenly realised what the problem is. Okay. There's two problems. First problem is this, that I haven't actually enabled the shadows properly on here. So if I go to the shadows on the bronze material, receive transparent needs to be ticked. Anything that's underwater, and for the stone, receive transparent. The torch is never going to be underwater, so I'm not going to worry about that. And that's starting to look a little bit better. I want to turn the light up. The sun wants to be, from memory, I think I had it at about 2. And over towards the yellowish side of the spectrum. Not green, yellow. Thank you. And obviously the water's going to be higher than this. So in actual fact, it's the scale of this that wants to go up. And I want to raise the camera and look down a bit more. So kind of a helicopter view really. What's that one like? There you go, you can see there's the water level, and now you can see that what it was camera angle more than anything. And now you can see that in actual fact this water I've got is too transparent, so I need to reset those numbers back to where I had them. Which was about 0.4ish, about 0.6ish. That's a little bit better. I've now got too much light going through. Every time you do this, you'll find it's different. So, just need to play with it. Until you get it the way you like it. And that will do. So now, the next thing I want to do, I actually want to make this sea retreat a bit that way, because it's, you can see the edge of it there. I don't want to do that. So, let's move things over a bit. And I can move it quite a bit that way, I think. Maybe I can add another repeat in the back, repeat in the X direction. Go back to view camera. And that's quite good, we're starting to get there. Right, now the next thing we want to do is we want to animate the sea to move upwards. And this is okay for a sort of a start point. I had it somewhere around about there. And so let's go into animation. We're going to insert the location keyword, and also on time I'm going to drop the time a bit. I'm going to hit I over there, so I've now set a time keyframe as well, doing these keyframes at the same time, which is a little bit advanced, better than going back and doing them separately. And I'm going to raise it at the end. It's going to be there. It's not quite covering our headdress, but it's risen a substantial amount. And the time here is going to be something like 7. I'm going to hit I over there and insert a location keyframe there, so that as we, and you can play with the wave settings. You can increase the depth, you can make the waves smaller, bigger. That's the smallest wave, for example, shortest allowed wavelength. You can play with the spatial size. You can play with the choppiness to make the waves a bit more choppy. Don't suggest you go too far, that's about the limit really. You can play with the scale, which makes the waves bigger. And if you do that, you're going to have to reduce the choppiness. And so on, until you get what you want. Okay, now this is showing you how to do it. I'm not showing you precisely what you want. Now the next thing we want is we want kind of a seafloor type effect. So we're going to add in, I'm going to use one of my favourite imports, which is images as planes. And we're on lakes water texture. And show you what that looks like. That looks like that. And it just gives a kind of bed, because you can see through this water. We want perceived transparent turned on, and we want to scale it up. It's going to view top. So it wants to be a similar sort of size to now you might think you'd never see this, but you do. It changes the whole dynamic of the light under the water. And it's really quite important that you have it there. So there we go. I'm going to drop it down. Somewhere around there. Let's say the lady's got her base partly buried in silt. And we're nearly there. And now I'm going to put a texture onto this surface here to create more little ripples. So get rid of this texture. This texture came in with the water that I imported, and I don't actually have this texture available, so I'm going to get rid of it. And this is how you get rid of the texture, just like that. Hit new, image, open, and I have a water texture that I use quite frequently. Well, I've got several. I've got one that I've made as well. What do I call it? Sea texture. Sounds like it. Which is like that. And that just gives me loads of little ripples. Now, that's not going to do anything to the colour. Don't want it to do anything to the colour. But what it is it's going to give me ripples. So you can see what that looks like. Now we've got loads of little ripples. Brilliant. Oh, and there's one thing I need to do to the sea. That's to change the direction of the waves. That's how aligned the waves are with each other. I'm making them quite a bit aligned, what direction they go in. You can fiddle around with that to your heart's content. Now the wind velocity, contrary to what you might think, makes quite a difference, as you can see, in how peaky the waves are. And you really want to adjust the choppiness down if you're going to reduce the wind velocity. And it flattens the waves a bit. So, there you go. Now the next thing we want is a background image. So I'm going to use import images as planes, and you can see that in many of my other, how to turn that on in many of my other tutorials. And I'm using this background here, which is a picture of New York. And we'll turn it up on end by setting X to 90. We need to rotate it. Actually, I'll do that by hand because I'm pretty sure that's the way around it goes. Might have it back to front. How about New York, an alternative universe with New York back to front? Scale it. I want to send it right back, but not so far back it goes outside the range of the sea. We want the sea to come right up to our image here. So we're going to put it around about there. Get your camera again. Now this particular image, if I turn textures on, that's interesting. Okay, I wasn't expecting that to go white like that. I don't know why that is, but hey, there you go. Oh, I think it's got something to do with the fact that the sun's way overhead, which I need to change in a minute. Yeah. I want to change the rotation of this sun quite a lot. So, if I scale this up, now you might wonder what's going on there, and what's going on is we're actually out of the range of the camera, which we will fix in a moment. And if we go to the camera settings, there we go. Right. That's more like it. So if we go to our New York there. And then what we want to do is we want to make that shadeless for the moment. There we go. And you can see that what this is it's a picture of the New York skyline, and what I've done is I've desaturated it. I've just taken almost all, but not all, of the colours out of it, because it's going to be appearing from the mist. And let's just get this back down to a reasonable scale. So there you go. Now of course if I render that, it won't look very convincing because there's no mist in it. So we go to the world settings here, and the things I want to do, I want to change the horizon colour to be a near match to that. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, but so it's a slightly bluey grey kind of there. Zenith colour to be a slightly darker version of that. Not extremely darker, just slightly darker, like so. Blend sky. And because that colour there is actually the colour that we introduce as mist, and personally I have no idea, apart from the fact it's going to be possibly over 90. Want it to start at 1, minimum 0.1. Let's see what that looks like. So you can see it wants to go further back, so we want 100, because what we want to do is we want to see those buildings. We want to just about see those buildings. 130 maybe. There. So that's 130, so that's a bit too much visibility for us. 120. Still too much visibility. 128. Okay, the wrong way. 123.5. No. So the lower this goes, the less visibility you've got. Let's try that. Really, you want to try just about be able to see these buildings at this stage, and then when you move the camera in closer, the buildings will become more visible. There, something like that. That's a lot better, and you'll notice it mists out the sea as well, which is good. And these wave heights are too high at the moment to be realistic, so what we want to do is we want to go into our ocean modifier, want to drop the scale down, turn the choppiness up, And let's use a different random seed, otherwise everyone's going to have the same type of ocean. Let's play around with that until we've got something we like. Something like that would do, maybe. Yeah, something like that. Okay, so now we've got our mist set up and the rest of it, everything else is just camera movements. So let's show you what I did. Obviously I had the Arduino Tronic logo in there to play with at the same time, but I'm not going to do that for this demo because you're not going to produce an Arduino Tronic intro, are you? So I'm going to insert a keyframe for the camera because this is going to be our first shot. Okay, and it's location and rotation. And I'm going to take this up to the point where the ocean starts to become in view. I'm going to move the camera forward. Now it's easiest to do these here, and you can play around with them to see what's what. So you can see that moves it backwards and forwards. So I'm going to move the camera in. I'm going to move the camera to the left, being careful I don't get the edge of this come into view. And I'm going to move the camera up, and I'm going to look down slightly more. So we're starting to move up on this now. Okay, and I'm going to insert location and rotation again, and then just about when it reaches her head, I want to be in for a close-up, but I want to be higher. So I'm going to raise the height of the camera significantly. And you can see what I'm doing now. Now I might have to adjust the mist at this point, we'll see. And just at the end, just before the end actually, I want to be over the top practically of Liberty. Maybe somewhere there. Maybe I want to rotate, oops, not that way. Maybe I want to rotate that way as well, just for a bit of extra dramatic impact. Insert, location and rotation. And now what I will need to do is click around and make sure that all the views kind of in between are decent. Sometimes you get unexpected things that happen. Down here somewhere. No, that's okay. Okay, so that will do. Now all I've got to worry about is the mist. Now, you remember I said I might have to adjust it because I don't want things to become too visible. Otherwise it becomes very obvious that you've got a city that's not been drowned behind her. So, I'm going to go back into world view, mist depth, I'm going to hit a keyframe on there because I'm probably going to have to adjust the mist. Now if I come here, yeah, I'm going to have to drop the visibility a bit, which isn't surprising because we just moved a fair amount nearer. So I'm dropping it down to about 104, 105. Render again. That's better. And I'm probably going to have to do it again here. Yes, I'm going to have to do it again here, probably quite a lot more this time, maybe 96 or something like that. And these mist changes won't be overly noticeable because they'll take place gradually over time. Every frame will be slightly more misty than the last. So there we go. And I'm actually not seeing enough of her in this picture here. So there's two things I can do. I can adjust the light, make the light more penetrating, and I'm going to do that slightly, or I can take the translucency of the water up a bit, and what you do is entirely up to you. So there we go, that's our light. Now I've also noticed that this shadow here is a bit too hard, so I want to soften that up a bit, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the energy. I'm going to make it 2.25ish, but then I'm going to change the ray shadow. I'm going to give it a soft size of 4, 6 samples, which should be enough, and try again. And you'll notice we've slowed down a lot, and that is the shadow sizing. Now there's something else I've noticed here, which is these lines. That is a texture artifact. I need to use a different sea texture. I need a seamless one. I seem to remember having this problem before, so I'll go and fix that. Let's just change that. Let's use that one. It's usually quite a good one, and we'll change the mapping a bit. Drop the geometry value for it down. we're still getting this untiling texture. Okay, let's try the other texture. Aha, that's a lot better. We need to raise you see this is the new, this is one way you can adjust it. So that's too low. You can see as I change this, as the water goes out, it renders with the new value. That's a bit high. 0.3, that's about right. Okay. Now the next thing, final thing really before we render, is that this sea texture needs to move. And not very much, but it makes it realistic. So the way you do that is I'm just simply going to add in an empty. Don't really care where it is. And I'm going to go back to this sea texture here. And the coordinates are now not generated, they're object. I'm going to set it to that empty. And now when this empty moves, the sea texture moves. If I go to view top and select our empty, which is there, and go to the beginning frame, I'm going to insert a location keyframe. I'm going to go to the end frame and I'm going to move it. So now the texture will move towards the camera, which is how I've decided to do it. Let's just render the end frame, make sure it looks good. And you can see these little disturbances in colour here are what is created by that ocean floor type layer that I put in, and it just gives a hint that there's something under the waves. Now let's just do a bit of compositing. All I'm going to do on this is a glare filter, so and we'll just render see, I clicked use nodes, then backdrop to turn the backdrop on. I know from experience that on this PC the zoom wants to be set at about 0.6, and now what I want to do is I want to add in an output node, which is a viewer, and that will put that image onto the backdrop like so. So now we can see what we're doing when we composite. Now I'm going to add in glare filter. I think that's all I want really. I could defocus as well. I did do on the last one, but this tutorial is going to be long enough already, so maybe not, eh? Right, so The thing that's going to make a difference is we want the number of streaks, I think, to be 5. It's always better with an odd number, always better if they're offset a bit, 18, 20 degrees, no, something like that. And now we want to set the threshold. We want to find a place where we want it to glare, and set the threshold so it just about does it. So we're going down, whoops, that glares everything. You can kind of see what we've got, and we can make the streaks bigger, and we can make the streaks smaller. And maybe something like that would be fine. Make sure I save the file, and then I'm going to go through and render. And as usual, I'm going to render straight to video, which people don't recommend, but hey, when have I followed anyone else's recommendations? So I'm going to put the output in my desktop and give it a file name lib for liberty, so that it doesn't overwrite anything else I might happen to have on there. I'm going to click full sample 16, and where are we? There, X video, and that's it. I'm now set up to render, and I'm going to render the animation, and I'll see you in a short while. So within a few frames I'd noticed that there were a couple of problems. The first was that the shadows still weren't really soft enough, so I went back in here, turned up the samples to 7 and the soft size to 8, and that seems to have fixed it. We've now got clear shadows nearer to the statue and softer shadows further away, which is exactly what we need. And also I found that her bronze was a little bit too light, so if I render image on the first one you'll see what I mean. She was a bit too bright, so I went in and I changed the diffuse intensity to 0.406, and that's darkened her down a bit. There just weren't enough shadows down here. So I'll let you go back to sleep again and see you soon. So here we are, a couple of hours later, and let's see what we've got. It's not bad at all. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and thank you very much for watching it, and please like and subscribe.